So listen, I just did. My buddy came. I did his podcast, and we visited for 2 days, and then we did the podcast at the end. And we had just come from a pizza place here in Paia on Maui. I'm on Maui. We were at this pizza place, and we almost got in a fight at the bar. Guy was fucking like restless, and you could just see it in his eyes. He was a crazy fuck, and he was like wrestling with it in his own head. Should I be a dick? Should I? He was like being a dick, then being a nice guy, buy you a beer, give you a little insult. Like he wanted a fight.
Yeah.
He saved himself by changing his mind. So then we come back, and his name's DB Sweeney. He's an actor. He's been in a bunch of shit for like
Lonesome
30.
Dove.
Yes. Yep.
Love that
And
guy.
8 Men Out. He was big in 8 Men Out. He's
Yeah.
in the new Scorsese movie that's coming out. So it's going to be huge, and he's got a good role. This is going to be big for him.
That's great.
Great dude. Friends with him through Chris Chelios. Great dude. So he came here. He stayed here for 2 days. At the end, we did the podcast, and we had just come from like this little almost fight at the bar, and we just started doing the podcast. And I like went into podcast mode, like, oh, yes, and polite. And, like I should have just said, fuck this. Let's talk about the fight we almost just got in at the bar.
Yeah.
Right. And
right.
I regret that I didn't do that. So now, starting with your podcast, I'm just saying whatever. I don't give a shit anymore.
That's awesome.
And I think that's what's important. I think that's what people want to hear.
Well, it is. I mean, and especially like that Jerry's passed now. I mean, it's not like anybody's going to get offended or anything. It's like, why not?
So you're right. Every other interview, not that I only done a few, I'm fucking nobody, but I did do a couple, and I'm doing one now. I was always polite because of Jerry. I'd never wanted to offend Jerry. Jerry was the greatest dude. Loved that guy. Never would offend him. Jerry's not here anymore. I'm going to say some shit about some people that everybody else is thinking. Nobody will say it. I'll fucking say it. I don't care. It's funny because people come and visit us here on Maui, and it takes like 3 days to chill out because they're all fucking jacked up. Number one, from the flight and all the everything that entails, right? Metal detectors and whatnot. But it takes them 3 days to chill out. Because it's like they're at home and they're getting bombarded by the news and this and bills and all this shit, and people are mean to each other on the street. And then you come here and drive down the street and people are like, hey, come on, cut in, go ahead. They let each other go, and everybody's throwing shakas and being cool to each other. And like me and my wife just went for a breakfast burrito, had a great conversation with some people who are here on vacation. Like they're from Canada, they live on the same link as Duncan Keith. We started talking about that, and like you just meet people and start talking and be friendly to people, like how it's supposed to be. Right. It's cool. I'm lucky. I'm so lucky, and I appreciate it every day. I never forget. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, that sounds like what I need, because I get so jacked up. The crime here in DC is outrageous. So what made you want to be a police officer to begin with?
So my dad was a Marine and Illinois State Police for 30 years. But I didn't really, I always looked at the police job as like my backup job. Like I wanted to be a dentist. Then I wanted to be a lawyer. Then I finished college and I was like, I didn't really enjoy like all this papers and book work and all this shit. I enjoyed the rest of college, but I didn't enjoy like the studying and the grades. And I just thought to myself, like, what am I doing? I ain't signing up for another 4 years of this shit, medical school or lawyer school or law school, not lawyer school. And I just got real with myself, and I'm like, what am I doing, man? Like, go get a job, get out there, start making some money, quit being a burden to your parents. So anyway, back to your question. So I got out of school. I started selling. I just took the first job I could get. I was selling cemetery plots.
Oh, what?
I sold my first 2 cemetery plots, and then I took the money that what do you call it when your money that you make off the thing?
Commission.
Take my commission, and I go to Florida with my brother for a week. So anyway, I come back. Then I got a job selling medical supplies. I did that for 3 years. I wasn't very good at that either because I didn't like the ass kissing and the bullshitting of being a salesman. It's not me. In the meantime, the police called. I had taken the test years before. You still want to be the police? I said, yes. And I quit a good job selling medical supplies. I was making a lot of money and I had a big future, but I hated being a salesman. And everybody told me, like, dude, no, stay where you're at. You're going to be successful. You're going to make money. I go, I don't care about money. I took a big chop. I'm going to be the police because I want to have a career that I will have fun. I'll have adventure. I won't be in a cubicle. I can help people. That's what I want to do. I don't care. I didn't listen to anybody, and I went and did it. And my wife at the time, my first wife, I had to live in Chicago. She didn't want to live in Chicago. We were living in a nice spot in Indiana, Munster. And I said, well, if you're going to be the police, we got to move back into Chicago. She didn't like that. So that didn't work. So I took the job. Yeah.
Right.
Did that answer your question? I forgot.
Oh, it did. No.
You
I
start rambling and then I forget what I was answering.
No. You answered it perfectly. The brother that you're talking about, is that the one? He looks a lot like you. Is this the same guy?
Tony?
That you went to Florida with?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, my brother Tony. I got one brother, Tony. He cuts hair in Chicago. He works at this place called Pascal Perel. Fancy schmancy place. He's been there like over like 30 years, I think. He's like big time hair cutter guy. Yeah.
Good to know.
Takes notes. Everybody thinks like, oh, he's your brother's a hairstylist. I'm like, yeah, but that dude will mess you up. Like that guy's tough. So Here's a quick story. He was looking for a side job. I got him a job working the door at my buddy's bar, Joe Panfil's bar. And he was working with this other guy, and the doorman comes up to me. He's like, looks at my brother. He's like, what do you put me with this pretty boy for? Like, what's going to happen when we get some people here starting some shit and I got to work with pretty boy? I'm like, dude, you'll see. Watch this. I go back like a week later, 2 weeks later, and he comes up to me. He's like, man, your brother can throw some hands. This fucking big ass dude, big football player looking guy. They started some shit and the guy put in a mouthpiece. Like he was there ready to fight. Put in a mouthpiece and my brother cleaned his clock. So fucked him up. He's like, I'll work with your brother anytime. I'll work with that pretty boy anytime you want. So that's the story about my tough guy, brother haircutter guy.
That's funny. That's perfect.
World's toughest hairstylist.
Oh my God. Well, Joe Pesci cut hair when he was starting out.
Oh yeah.
So I don't fuck with barbers. Like they'll fuck you, like you said, they'll fuck you up in more ways than one.
That's
so. That's
if
too
bad
funny.
Haircut. That's even worse.
Well, he just got my business. If whenever I go to Chicago, then.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's funny. Good dude.
So when
like the nicest guy ever.
Really?
Yeah.
I see your post on social media with him, and sometimes it's hard to tell the difference.
Super, just the best guy ever. Yeah. I'm going back to Chicago in February, and I got a couple things planned, so you'll see some stuff then. I don't want to give it up now, but it's pretty going to be good.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm always looking. Always looking.
What am I? Pete Kelly 82 on Instagram or 82 Pete Kelly, whichever one of those. Yeah.
Well, I'll find it. I'm there. Okay. You know me, I'm the guy that finds all the shit. So it's like
that's true. You spend a lot of time researching the internet, man. I don't know how you find this stuff.
I do it on my off time. So it's just a hobby. People are like, why don't you try to make money? I said, you know what? Not everything you do has to be making money. Sometimes you just enjoy things.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about some crazy shit and get some viewers on here for you.
All right. Well, let's do it. So
what do you got? Go through your questions. What's your craziest question for me?
All right. Craziest
while you got
question?
me babbling.
Okay. Let me see. What was the most unusual / craziest moment you faced while on the job?
Oh, on the job? Police job? Oh, man.
The police job.
So, are we talking Springer or are we talking police?
Just police for this. We can go into Springer later, though.
Yeah, okay. Man, I honestly, I can't tell you. I have no idea. I've been shot twice. I've been stabbed 6 times. I broke my neck twice. Like, I had a really exciting career. I've been through a lot of shit. It's been a great career. It's been fun. I got to help a lot of people. I took my lumps too, and I'm still here. And that's I'm really happy about that I'm still here. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're here too.
Lives.
So what was the craziest fight you would say? So you've been shot, you've been stabbed, and neck broken, but what's the craziest like hand to hand? Because I know you're a fighter, so like what's the craziest fight you experience?
I'll tell you. Well, let's go over to Springer. I'll tell you this one because that's the easy one that comes to mind. I'm sure you've seen this one. The big fat dude on Springer.
Oh yeah, the blue shirt guy?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So he comes on the show, and like our show, our rules on Springer was the guests are never allowed to touch the woman, grab the woman. You're not allowed to touch a woman on the show. So this guy comes out, right? The female comes out. She's telling Jerry the story. Then the guest comes out, and he's like this big. He was like 300 pounds. He was probably the big tough guy wherever he was from, and he came out fired up. So the producers get you all jacked up and fired up and give you 20 Red Bulls and backstage, and then they lie to you and they tell you this and tell you that, and they get these guests come out like fired up. I don't know what happened with this guy. He came out fired up. He went right for the woman and grabbed her. And that's the rule. Like, you don't touch the woman on the show. So I jumped in, like, separated him. I'm like, hey, you don't touch a woman, blah, blah. And he didn't back down. He got right in my face and came back and forth, and we were grabbing each other. And he wanted to fight. But, like, like, I'm not allowed to punch a dude in the face on the show. I can grab him and I can hold him and I could push him, but you're not supposed to be punching the guests. Although we used to get in trouble for throwing the guests across the stage.
Yeah.
Audience loved it. I don't think nobody got hurt doing it, so I thought it was good for TV. They told us to cut it out. So we were throwing the guests. Anyway, so the big guy, he's like, whatever you're saying, I'm going to get you. And I told him, like, at this point, my shirt's already ripped. And I'm like, I'm telling you, if you want it, you're going to get it. Like, if we go, I'm willing to lose my job. I don't care. If you come at me, I'm going to fuck you up. So he comes. No, I had him on we wrestled him down. That's what it was. We wrestled him to the ground, and he's like, oh, you're real tough with your boys and this and that. So I looked up at Richard. I said, if I let you up, are we going to go? And I looked at Richard. Richard Dominic was the executive producer. Should have been called the Richard Dominic Show, not the Jerry Springer Show, because Richard was everything. He was the Jerry Springer Show. He's the genius behind all of it. It's all his credit. So I looked up at Richard, and Richard like thought about it for a second, gave me the head shake, like let him up. I said, okay. And you could see it on the tape. I go, you want to get up? And I look over. Richard says, yeah. Let him. I said, okay, get up. I told him, come at me. You're going to get it. Took a couple swings. I ducked him, and I was still like open hand slap, duck, open hand slap, duck, open hand slap. Then he connected with me. So I was like, I guess I'm getting fired, and fucking I'm just start unloading on him. Like, got this guy on the stage, like punching him in the face. And he's a big dude. He's a tough guy. He took it like a champ. But you could see he was a little like, oh man, this dude's unloading on me. His face was all red. Audience was going crazy. It was great. So even in the clip that you see on YouTube, they cut a lot of the beating out. So then we go backstage. We go to commercial. We go backstage, and I'm behind him. I'm still ready. We're going to fucking fight backstage in the commercial. And he goes to me, that was good, right? Wasn't that good? I'm like, fuck, yeah. You fooled me. The producers must have told him, like, if Pete gets in your face, get back in his face. So now we had this full-on fight on the show, and it was all set up. I was like, yeah, dude, you got me. I fucking thought it was real. But hey, I give him credit. He didn't complain. He took his couple smacks in the face and didn't seem to bother him that much. I'm sure he's like the tough guy at his local bar wherever he's from. So good for him, man. Good for him.
Well, I found a clip recently on the page, and I put it on the page. It's this little Hispanic guy, fat guy, no shirt on, and you and him get into it, and you're pushing him back, and then he pushes you, and then you just full on grab his ass and throw him backstage.
Yeah. So I was still pretty new. That might have been my first year, and I was like getting my bearings. I didn't know what I could do, what I couldn't do. Might have been like the first time they let me take the lead, right? Because I think Steve was still on the show then.
He was.
Make appearances on the show. And I was really feeling myself out. I didn't know what to do. I think we were like bumping bellies. Like I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I could and couldn't do. and the guy had a big mouth, and he was getting the best of me and talking shit, and good for him, made for good TV, right? But yeah, I don't know. So anyway, he was a good guest. Yeah. I'm sure you know this. You're an expert. Jerry got his own show. Jerry was a newsman in, what is it, Cincinnati or Cleveland?
Cincinnati.
Where was he when he was? Okay, he was the mayor in Cincinnati, right? He did
Right.
his two. Let me even back up first. Jerry was a city councilman, Cincinnati's youngest city councilman. Jerry got a hooker. Jerry paid the hooker with a written check. Big mistake. Gets caught. She's trying to blackmail him. Jerry's like, you ain't blackmailing me. He calls a news conference, tells the city, I fucked up. I'm a city councilman. I had a hooker. I paid her with a check. She's blackmailing me, so I resigned. The whole city of Cincinnati is like, that's the only honest politician we have or that we've ever had. That guy's awesome. So then he runs for mayor and he wins based off of his honesty and paying the hooker with a written check.
Jeez.
So Jerry's the mayor of Cincinnati for 2 terms. You're only allowed to be the mayor for 2 terms. So he becomes the news anchor for the local news in Cincinnati. NBC, Ricky Lake and all that shit starts popping off, getting popular. NBC comes to Jerry and says, you're going to have your own show. What? He says, in Chicago, you're going to have your own talk show. Jerry said, Jerry told me this. Jerry says, I don't want my own show in Chicago. He goes, I want to be the news anchorman here. They said, well, you could do both. We'll fly you back and forth. You do both. So he agreed. Goes to Chicago, does the show for 2 years, horrible ratings. They're going to cancel the show. But they got to save the time slot for a couple months till the next show comes on. So they hire this young producer to just cruise them out through the final shows, Richard Dominic. Richard Dominic says, hey, I got this job for a couple months to fill the time slot. Fuck it, let's start having fights. Just like Geraldo had the big fight on his show. Let's start having fights. Let's start bringing the KKK on here. Let's just go crazy because we're getting canceled anyway. Richard Dominic is the genius behind all of Jerry Springer's show. Next thing you know, #1 show in the country, beats Oprah in the ratings. The whole late 90s Jerry Springer phenomena goes off thanks to Richard Dominic.
My man.
As time goes by, Richard's the man. Richard has a good relationship with NBC. Richard proposes we do a spinoff with Steve. Richard made Steve too. Richard told him shave his head. That's what made him bald and notable. Richard had the audience start chanting, Steve, Steve, Steve. They didn't do that because Steve was cool. They didn't do that because Steve was somebody special. Did it because Richard told him to chant Steve. And which is brilliant. He made another character, a good, famous character out of the show. So now you had Jerry, now you had Steve. 2 people to work and make money. So then Richard comes up with the idea, let's give Steve his own spinoff, give him his own show. He tells Steve, you need your own security guy. You need your own Steve. Steve says, I know just the guy. Calls me. I go in for the interview. I meet Richard for the first time. I've known Steve just a little bit through mutual friends on the police department. Meet Richard. The first year of Steve's show, I'm the guy on his show. So whenever Steve would get mad at somebody, he would say, I'm going to have Officer Pete Kelly come up here and throw you off the stage. And that was my job. I'd go off and throw the guy. They were still feeling it out, and they decided, no, let's make Steve the tough guy on his own show, and the security in the audience will be hidden in regular clothes. We used to wear Steve's security show T-shirts like we did on Springer. Then they said, no, we'll make him like plain clothes, and Steve's his own tough guy. Great idea. Great. I agree. Good move. And then I went over to Springer and did that full time and took over Springer for a few years. Yeah. Does that answer your question again? Here I go.
It does. Well, but what he says in interviews is he says, well, you know, the guy that was the producer, he'll never say Richard's name, but you know it's him. If you do the history, you know he's talking about Richard. He said, Richard produced me in such a way that I couldn't be myself, and I'm screaming at people, and I just was wearing myself out. And he's like, it wasn't until my wife took over the show and she let me be myself, and that's when, you know, when they fired him is when the show got good and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but this guy gave you this show. Like, how are you gonna talk shit like that?
Richard gave Steve everything. I haven't seen the show lately. I know he's been on like over 15 years now. I haven't seen it. When I was there the first year, Richard was trying to get him to yell at people. Richard was having him get in people's faces. And dude, it was brutal to work that show. We would go for 2 hours solid, no breaks, just to try to get something to put on air. It was so boring. Steve was so terrible. We hated it. The audience wanted to leave. It was fucking brutal. Since Rochelle took over, I hope it's gotten better. It must be okay because it's on TV for all these years. Rochelle is awesome. Rochelle is a great person. Always worked well with her. She's a really wonderful person. I like Rochelle a lot. A lot of people don't even know. They used to do uncensored Jerry Springer shit. Dude, it's like, I didn't know either. So I show up for my day at work, and I'm already kind of like, man, I don't know if this is cool with the police department. Like me working on this show. Now I'm standing on stage, and there's titties, and there's fucking dude getting blown on stage, and like strippers and midgets, and I'm like standing in the back like, man, I'm gonna get fired. I can't be like, this is almost basically a porno show. Like, what am I doing working here? How did this happen? So I'm like fading into the corner, trying not to get involved in any of it. And Tony's the douchebag, like with his shirt off and dancing with the strippers and pulling his pants down and thinking he's the man. He's a fucking douchebag. Fuck that guy. Two guys on the whole show. Everybody else was great. Jason's my brother. Big Chris, great dude. All the cameramen, the crew in Chicago and in Stamford, all great people. Like a really good family with a shitty boss. Steve was a shitty boss. Jerry was the greatest. So people don't realize this either, right? Like when you say the Jerry Springer show, you're talking about the Richard Dominic show. Jerry was like an actor. Jerry showed up. They gave him a little card that said, Nancy, wife, Bob, husband, Judy, third girl from the threesome. And he'd go out there and just wing it. He had the same 20, 30 questions that he asked over and over and over. Jerry didn't plan or have anything to do with the show other than go out there with his cards and hit his mark and do his shit. Great dude, great guy. Richard Dominic was the show. And even when Rochelle took over, they just kept doing Richard Dominic shit till the wheels fell off. Good for them.
Into that. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, those are the best years. The years that I think it was from pretty much your whole run on the show, like 2006 to 2013. I mean, those to me are the best years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially 2007 and 8, like when the puppets were on the stage and Kenny, the guy with the legs.
Yeah, yeah.
That was the good shit to me. That's what I
you like that section? Yeah, it was cool. It was fun. Yeah.
And
it was all new for me, right? So like it was hard to me to judge. I know that the biggest years for the show were the end of like the 90s. That's when they were number one and beating Oprah and doing all that. So yeah, I didn't watch it back then, but of course I knew of it like everybody did, right? But yeah.
I was out watching the dogs today get trained like in the bite suit, and the one thing came to mind is your episode of Fear Factor. Seeing you getting attacked by the dog, I immediately started thinking about that.
So the best thing that came of all that is that I'm still friends with Joe. Like me and him hit it off. When we filmed Fear Factor, that was only the second episode that they ever taped. And Joe was like, me and Joe hit it off right away. And Joe would come over and be like, dude, this show ain't going nowhere. Like, they're not going to let us put this on TV. They're not going to let us do this to people. This show's going nowhere, and I was just laughing. Like, I was happy to be there. Like you, I was an aspiring actor at the time, and that was just an audition for this show. The show was like nothing. They couldn't even get people to go on it. So they had auditions for it. So I went on an audition thinking it was a job, and it turned out it was this television show. Like, okay, whatever, trip to California, might 50,000, cool. And I did it. It was fun. Yeah.
So when are you going to be on Joe's podcast?
Oh, I don't know about that. Yeah. I'm still friends with Joe. He just reached out to me a little while ago. He was in Chicago, and we ran into a mutual friend of ours, Scotty Lindvall, and gave him my number. Joe called me, and just checking on me since I got shot. And, you know, he offered up a bunch of advice. He's big into stem cells and is encouraging me to go to Mexico to his place and get the stem cells done. But I looked into it. I don't think it helps me. I got nerve damage. I don't think it helps nerves. But yeah, I appreciate him looking out. The show is cool. Still pops up. Here's a funny thing. Like, they just came out with some new cable channel. Like, I guess it's a Fear Factor channel or something. Anyway, my niece, who's 13, she doesn't know anything about Fear Factor or that I acted or any of that shit. They used me on the commercial for the channel, and then her and all her friends watched me on Fear Factor, and my brother and my mom were calling me like, "Hey, you're like the star of the family over here. Sloan knows that you're like, we're on Fear Factor." Like, how did she find out about that? So that was cool.
So they don't know.
Years later.
So she doesn't know anything about like the Springer Show or any of that stuff?
That's a good question. I don't know if she knows about Springer. Yeah, I don't know.
She'll find it one day. It'll pop up.
Yeah.
But it always does.
It's funny though that a 13-year-old, like, all of a sudden they're all into Fear Factor, the show that was on 20-something years ago, you know?
Yeah, I was actually was I like middle school when that came out? Something like that. So yeah, I remember watching it as a kid. Yeah. But like you said, I mean, that's like early 2000. That was a long time ago. So
yeah. So that was like a big hit right off the bat. People loved it because it was wild, right? Like, oh man, they're fucking burying people in snakes and they're jumping cars and they're doing this shit. So I went to a Super Bowl party at my buddy Joe Farina's house, and it was cool because on one channel they were doing like a Fear Factor marathon. So we're at the Super Bowl, and then we had Fear Factor going. And then during the Super Bowl, I had done a Chevy commercial. So I had a Chevy commercial on during the Super Bowl. So it was cool, man. I was like at this party, like, hey, I'm on Fear Factor. Here's my commercial. Like, I got to be a big shot for like an hour.
You know, I'd like to see that Chevy commercial. I'd like to see any of that stuff because I don't think
So
I've
would
ever
I.
seen it.
If you could find that, I'd be impressed. I don't have a copy of that.
What year was it?
I don't know. We have to look. I think the first year of Fear Factor was 2001. So it had to be probably that Super Bowl, 2001,
Okay.
2. Yeah. So I'm not, you might surprise you, but I'm not a very good dancer. So my one move that I have is I just go like this.
Yeah, I've seen it on Springer. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So every time I'm called upon to dance, that's my move. So we do the Super Bowl commercial, and we're like all tailgaters in the parking lot at at Soldier Field, but the Bears aren't in it, so we're the only ones in the parking lot. And we have to dance. They're like, okay, now you guys dance. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I hate fucking dance. I don't know how to dance. So I just did my stupid move. It was funny. Like,
I'm definitely
my
going to try to
friends
find
like,
this
that's
now.
all you got? That's your only move? Like, well, what am I going to do? Hit a fucking lawnmower?
I'm definitely going to find that now. I'm going to find it. It's going to be my mission.
Yeah, I think it was a Chevy commercial for like Super Bowl guys in the parking lot at the Bears game, and nobody else is there. Yeah.
I'll find that.
Challenge accepted.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I want to shift back a little bit to the police stuff again. Let's see here. My questions. Did you face any like issues starting out, like with anything? Like, you know, you didn't necessarily want to do that at first. So were there any issues like that you had to kind of like get used to something, but it was really shocking at first?
So by the time when I became the police, when I decided to go to the academy, I was all in. I was happy, really looking forward to it. Just glad to leave that salesman life behind me and like go out and do a good job and try to help people, right? Like through the worst day of their life, the policeman gets to come and help them through their worst day. What was surprising about it? That you hit the street. I was lucky to have a great training officer, Jim Gonzalez, great dude, veteran, been through it all and more, and took 3 years to teach me how to be the real police. I worked on the south side in the ghetto, and it was running and gunning every day, car chases and shootouts and man with a gun and dope, and like it was wild, dude. I remember we had 2 different. So car chases are the best thing that could ever happen to you. Shootouts are cool and fights are cool and all that shit is fun and exciting. there's nothing better than a car chase. Car chases is the best. They don't come around very often. You're not even allowed to car chase anymore. But then it was awesome. And we got in 2 car chases in one night, 2 totally separate car chases. We start off the night with a great car chase, go in, bunch of hours of work and paperwork and this and that. We hit the street for another 2 hours to finish our shift and get in another car chase. It was awesome.
That is
There's
awesome.
nothing better, dude. I did it all. I skydived and bungee jumped and surfing big waves and doing anything you could think of, right? There nothing compares to a car chase through the city, like 100 miles an hour through red lights. Like, it's wild, it's crazy, smashing up cars, and oh man, it's awesome.
It's like Smokey and the Bandit for real.
For real. Worse, better.
Yeah, because it's real.
Great.
Yeah,
Dude, it's great. Yeah.
that's crazy. I'm surprised you never went into any stunt work.
I did a little bit on Transformers. I did a fight, and I was
Oh, right.
actually considered a stuntman for that. So yeah, I can claim that I was a stuntman. Old Hooper.
I mean more so like with the car stuff. Now that you mentioned that.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, dude, I met all those guys on Transformers.
Oh yeah.
They're bad dudes, man. They're like experts. They're not some idiot like me who's just got a car and driving around like an idiot. These guys are like trained race car driver. They know what they're doing. Yeah.
You had that Chevelle for a while, right?
I did. I bought a 67 Chevelle. It was my dream car. Put a lot of money into it like an idiot. Got half of it back when I sold it, but I enjoyed it. It was good. Yeah, 67 Chevelle. I put a 572 motor in it, a crate motor. So it had like 600 and something horsepower. And basically, I would take it to the bar and then just do a burnout all the way home in it. That's it.
That's great. You need to write a book. You really do. You got the best stories, man.
Yeah, well, the good stories you can't put in a book. I can't.
No, I want to know them
put 'em
all,
in a
man. You got to record. You got to leave something behind.
Yeah. So I'm writing a screenplay. I'm going to write a screenplay. I got a character, and I'm going to like disguise my real stories as this character, and I'm going to put them all together and mash them up into a story and make a story. We'll see.
That would be great.
Yeah, little
Absolutely
hobby.
great. You know, there's
I think the insight to like really being there for this shit is like what makes it right. Like anybody could sit down and tell a story about a car chase, but to know the feelings and the excitement and the fear that's all happening, if you can get that out into the book or the screenplay or whatever medium you go with, I think that's what puts right. So like even as actors, the best actors are people who've had a real life first. They're not just faking everything. They've had these experiences, and now they play them on screen.
there is a picture on your Instagram, you with like a high heel shoe and you're covered in blood. It's like an old picture. What is that? I gotta know. What's that about?
That's one of them stories I don't know if I can tell. I'll
cut it out. I promise. I'll cut it out.
Yeah, no. I don't want you to cut nothing out. Let me just figure out. Okay. So I'm on a first date. So I'm living in Bucktown, which is like this nice neighborhood in Chicago. When I moved in, it wasn't that nice. And then it was like this, all the buildings were getting rehabbed and people were moving in. Here comes the yuppies. And it turned into one of the best neighborhoods in Chicago. I lived there for 20 years. So I'm on a first date with this like really nice, she must have been like 10 years younger than me. This real nice, like polite woman, super nice. So idiot me, dumb cop guy, I take her to a Korn concert, heavy metal Korn concert. She was cool. She liked it. We went to a local bar. We're walking back to the house. And so the neighborhood still wasn't completely changed. And at night, there were prostitutes that would come out. So like, I don't know, you probably don't know Chicago, but North Avenue by the Home Depot is where like all the prostitutes would hang and the Johns would drive by and pick up their girls. And I lived half a mile over from Home Depot and they would creep around in my neighborhood too. So I come home, I'm walking up to the house. There's 3 hookers standing in front of my house. I'm like, come on, get the fuck out of here. And usually when they see the owner come home, they just move on because they don't want no trouble. They just want to make money. Two of them are like, okay. They start to leave. The third one's like, fuck you, I ain't going nowhere. I go, oh yeah? She fucking like starts coming at me. I give her a kick in the ass. Nothing bad. Just gave her a little boot in the ass. She takes her shoe off. And now she's like, starts this fight. She got the shoe in her hand with the high heel, like the sharpened high heel. And she's trying to whack me with the shoe. So now I'm like fighting with this hooker in the street. My date is like super innocent, nice, clean girl. The other two hookers come over here, and they like take her and hide her where she's safe. Now I'm in the street fighting with this hooker with this sharpened razor blade shoe. So she's going, I'm just like dodging, moving, and finally she comes over the top. She cracks me in the eyebrow with the heel of the shoe and cuts me wide open. And I've been drinking at the concert, so like I'm just bleeding like a pig. It's everywhere. So now I'm like, motherfucker. I start chasing her. She runs. I'm chasing her down the block. Lincoln Town car pulls up, and these two black dudes jump out. Must be her pimps. So I'm like, oh shit. I don't have a gun because I was at the concert. You can't bring a gun in the concert. I start running for my house. Running back down the block, the two pimps are chasing me. And when I'm getting to the front door, I'm like, fuck, I'm not going to be able to get the key in the door and get in the house fast enough. They're going to get me. So I turn around and square off. So I'm fighting these two pimps right in front of my house. So the first guy comes and bam, I fucking cracked him and knocked him down. So now I get all cocky and I start talking shit to the number two guy. I'm like, yeah, you fuck with the wrong white boy, motherfucker. Come on. Like, first guy gets back up and jumps on my back. Number two comes, cracks me. Boom, I go down. I'm in a ball, and now they're both kicking the shit out of me. I'm like in a ball, and they're kicking the fuck out of me on the sidewalk. So the hookers are all yelling. The girls screaming. Two fucking homies are kicking the shit out of me in a ball in the ground. So they finally stop, and they take off. I jump up, I go in the house, get my gun, come back out, and the pimps are gone, but the hooker's still on the street. So now I'm chasing her with the gun in my hand. I'm covered in blood, got the gun in my hand. I'm chasing the hooker down the street. She runs out onto North Avenue, and it's like black backed up with cars waiting at the red light. So they're like, imagine you're sitting there at like 2 a.m, and here comes Whitey, soaked in blood with a Glock in his hand, chasing a black hooker down the street. Some fucking crazy dude opens his door. Come on, get in. She jumps in his car. He goes into oncoming traffic and takes off and rescues her. Oh,
Yeah.
rescues me, I guess. So
Good
that's
God.
the story. That's the clean version of the story.
Well, I can only imagine what the dirty version of the story would be.
Yeah. So I ended up getting a bunch of stitches in my head, and no big deal.
I just remember I saw that photo and I was like, I gotta know, because I saw it. I was like, this is just too good of a photo to like.
So here in my house, we have like we have like a pool bathroom. It's outside, and it's a bathroom for the pool. And I have like a bunch of memorabilia and pictures and all kinds of shit on the wall. And I got that shoe. She left the shoe on the ground, so I have it next to the picture of me all soaked in blood. That's like my memory. So when people see it, they use the bathroom, and then they come out and they're like, let me ask you a question. What's the story with that shoe? And why are you covered in blood on the wall? Like, that's a good story. And then they get the real version.
I don't think you could top that.
Oh, I bet you I could.
It's a challenge.
Yeah, I got a lot of stories. We could sit here for a long time.
No, I love it. I hope you told some of these on that podcast you did.
No, I should have. That's what I'm regretting, that I didn't open up and open my mouth. I just sat there like an idiot and was just like being nice and doing like I thought I should have been. I should have went right into the story about the fight we almost just had and tell some crazy shit, right?
So did anyone have to break it up, or did it, like the one you just almost got into? Like what actually like diffused it?
The guy changed his mind. You could see it in his eyes. He was a crazy dude, like, and he was like battling in his head, like, should I fucking fight these guys? Should I fuck with them? Should I not? If I fuck with them, are they going to do something back to me? And I think he finally realized like, these aren't the right two guys to mess with. Because DB was ready to go, I was ready to go. Like, it wouldn't have been good
Yeah.
for him. Who knows, right? Maybe dude's like a black belt, something, and turn us both into pretzels, and I'd be here laughing about that. So that reminds me, did you ever hear my Steven Seagal story? Did I
The
tell you
one,
that one?
the one with your dad's in that story,
Yeah.
right?
Me and my dad, we were going to go look for him and get beat up. But that's what reminded me is like me and my dad were drunk going to look for Steven Seagal to fight him. And it's like either way would have been fine. We had a story about how we went and beat up Steven Seagal with my dad, or Steven Seagal beat up me and my dad. Either way
You,
would have been fine.
well, you know what? I want to hear it, and I want the people to hear this story because I think I know it, but I want to hear it again.
Okay, so I'm at the UFC. Are you back?
All back. We're good.
Oh, there you are. Okay, I got you. All right, recording. We're all good.
Still
I got
recording.
no audio. Oh, there you are. Okay, cool.
All good.
All right. So where was I? I'm at the UFC. My buddy Jim Byrne is a publicist for UFC. He was getting me tickets once in a while, like because I was on Springer, so he could push it as like publicity for the show, or I don't know, whatever. Great dude, Jim Byrne. Love the guy. So we're at UFC, me and my dad, and like the UFC was the first thing that me and my dad really connected on. We both loved it, and for me to be able to take him to UFC was really created some great memories that I'll never forget with me and my dad. So me and my dad go to UFC. After the show, we get to go backstage for the fighter meeting and the interviews and this and that. And me and him had been drinking beers for the whole fight. And we're backstage, and Steven Seagal's back there. And he's real big, right? He's like 6'6", probably 300 pounds, got this black leather jacket on with his, he's got his arms crossed with his hands like in his sleeves, probably got like a sword in there or something. Like he's fucking batshit. But I'm super excited to meet him, right? Like he's my guy. When I was growing up, Steven Seagal, Above the Law, all those movies, I loved it. So Jim Byrne, the publicist, he's like, hey, you guys want to meet Steven Seagal? Like, fuck yeah. So he goes and introduces us. He's like, this Steven, this is Pete Kelly and his dad, Pete Kelly. Pete is Jerry Springer security. And I was like, no, no, no. Chicago police, 20 years. State police, 30 years. So I know Steven was a wannabe cop. So right then he changed his whole attitude. Like, oh, hey guys, like he was super cool with us once he knew we were the police. So he starts giving us police lessons. You got to watch your hands and you got to do this. And like, so now I'm like, this fucking guy, like a part-time cop, actor, teaching us. We got 50 years of police experience between us. He's going to teach us how to be the police. Fucking guy. So, okay, we meet him. It's cool. I'm excited. Now 20 minutes goes by and I'm like getting this vibe from my dad. He's in a bad mood. Guy's never in a bad mood. Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? He's like, it's fucking Pops. Call me Pops. Who the fuck is he to call me Pops? And he never talks like that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Just call me Pops. Who the hell is he to call me Pops? I go, what? He goes, Steven, call me Pops. I go, like, is that bad? Is that, I don't, like, to me, that's not offensive. He goes, Pops. Who the fuck is he to call me Pops? Like, you didn't like that? He's like, no. I go, want to go beat him up? He's like, yeah, let's go find that fucker. Me and my dad are drunk, walking around backstage at the UFC, looking for Steven Seagal. like two idiots, just drunken idiots, like looking for this guy. But I'm thinking, hey, if we find him and we beat him up, incredible story. If we find him and he beats us up, even better story. I love it. Hey, me and my dad got beat up by Steven Seagal at the UFC. So
Yeah,
that's the whole
sure.
story. Luckily, unfortunately, we never found him. Yeah.
But so the photo that you took with him and your dad, that was the same night? Okay.
Yeah, that was it. That must have been. I don't know. I guess I'll have to take another look at my dad's face and see if it was pre or post him calling my dad the Pops.
He looked kind of mad. He wasn't smiling in the photo.
Well, then there you go. Must probably just said it right then.
Your dad was Vietnam veteran, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a funny thing about that, like, remember when like Platoon? Well, you don't remember. You're too young. But when Platoon, the movie came out, it was like this big resurgence in America about the Vietnam veterans, and there was a lot of support for them. Not before that, though. Like, right? It was a different thing. They didn't treat those guys like they should have. And there was this swelling of pride, and people could talk about it. So there was a lot of like meetings by these Vietnam vets. They'd have them at the VFW hall and whatever. And my dad started going to these VFW halls. My dad was a man of very few words. And he started going to these meetings. And my mom finally said to him, like, don't you feel weird, like, going to these meetings when you weren't in Vietnam? And my dad's like, I was. And he had never told my mom that he was in Vietnam, never told her any of that shit. That, like, so my dad used to have night terrors. So my whole life, his whole life, or whenever it started, he would scream in the middle of the night, ah, like, I assume that's all Vietnam shit. He says that he can't remember what he was yelling about, and it's got to be something, right? Them poor guys, like what they suffered, and then they came home and they got treated like shit. And, you know, we got to learn from that. We got to treat these guys who come home now, we got to treat them better. I think we're doing a better job, but I don't think we do nearly as much as we should, right? So,
Well, even with the World War II, I mean, my grandfather was World War II vet, and when he came back, he was so depressed because his best friend stepped on a landmine right beside him, blew up right beside him.
yeah.
And he became a severe alcoholic. And when he came back, he checked into a hotel, didn't tell anybody he was back, and started violently drinking. And the bad thing about that was every time he would try to tell his family about what he went through and try to, like, you know, explain to them why he's the way he was, they would always say, nobody wants to hear that shit. And I'm talking my dad,
Yeah.
and like his sister and even his wife. And that would send him into a fucking rage. And he would just start destroying the house. And like, it wasn't until he got to be an old guy and my stepdad started talking with him, because my stepdad interviews veterans for, like, that's what he does. And they archive his work at a university in North Carolina. So he sat down with him and got him to talk. And he calmed down quite a bit and finally was able to get those stories off his chest. And he was a lot better after that.
Yeah.
So,
Dude, did you ever hear the term shell shocked?
yes.
They didn't even call it PTSD or anything like clinical. They just, you're fucking shell shocked. Like it was a horrible thing and you shouldn't talk about it. You shouldn't. Man, they treated those guys so bad. Like, you're shell shocked. Like that was a bad thing. Like, yeah, I'm fucking, of course. You have no idea what the fuck happened to me.
Yeah. Well,
Horrible, dude. Like it's nice to look back and see that we've learned and we're getting better and you're trying to do a better job, right? But yeah, man.
well, being a homeless vet, that shouldn't even be a term that is a thing. You know, that they should be taken care of for life. They paid the ultimate sacrifice. They're America's heroes. That's how they should be treated. And you know, to do it any other way is just wrong.
Yeah.
So, but he finally did. I mean, he calmed down. And, you know, people would come to me and they'd say, you know, your grandfather back in the day, he was just a real asshole. And like, he made a lot of enemies and blah, blah, blah. And I finally started saying, I'm sorry, did you serve? Did your best friend get blown up right beside you? I mean, he fought on the front lines in Sicily for 4 years. 4 years on the front lines. I said, you know what? I would be a fucking asshole too.
Fucking right, dude.
Yeah.
And then you come back and nobody gives a shit and they treat you bad about it.
And they say, get over it, right? Oh, you just get over it, you know? Be normal. So,
yeah. Like, you don't know what these guys did for us.
Yeah.
You don't understand what they did for us.
Well, I don't know. And these, you know, every single person, it's funny, everybody's got an opinion, but they've never done the damn thing to have the opinion on it. Kind of like Steve with his police advice, you know, it's like.
Oh, yeah, Steven Seagal. Yeah. Well, hey, I seen his show, right? He's like a part-time, go out there and be a Louisiana sheriff or whatever he is. Dude, he's still my guy. When I was growing up, he was my movie star guy, right? I have a different outlook on what a movie star is now. right? Like you're an actor. Actor's a noble profession. I get it. But then don't try to, just because you played a cop doesn't mean you can go out and tell real cops what to do,
Shit.
right?
In
You
that
should be
case,
asking us. You should be asking us, like, how could I do my job better from, like, tell me some real shit so I could learn and put it on screen.
yeah, well, that's the thing is like, if that's the case, if you're a cop because you played one, then I guess I'm a fucking cop because I played. It's either I'm a perp or I'm military or I'm a
Yeah.
police officer. I'm none of the three. So, you know, I don't know if that's the case, but you know, I played a SWAT guy Monday. I was on a true crime show that's going to be on the CW network.
That's, you look like a SWAT guy right there with the hat on too,
Oh yeah,
dude. You look like a SWAT guy. That's it. Pull it down nice and low and just fucking
here we
don't
go. We can
smile.
do about to do
Yeah,
the
there you
raid
go.
going in
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, it's still fun. I'll do it as long as I can. Well, you know what? Until I start getting dad roles, I don't want to do that. That's when I'm going to cut it off.
Well, here, so when I started acting, like of course, I got pigeonholed as a cop, right? And if you're going to be pigeonholed in something, thank God it's a cop, because there's a cop in every show, every movie, everything there is. There's a lot of cop jobs out there, so that's a good deal, dude. And same thing with dads too. Dad in almost everything, right?
That's right. I mean, it's definitely a market for it. But in the next couple years, I'm not going to have any hair, so I'm going to lose all that flair too. So I'll have to change
And
my
then you'll
whole.
really look like a cop.
Yeah.
It'll be like me, bald cop.
No, you know what? I'll just shave it completely. I'll get the
Yeah,
big beard and the earring or some shit. I'll start being
there you
bulked
go.
up, be a biker.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, I remember
Time
when
will
I used to
tell.
go on auditions, you'd go in for all these cop auditions. So when I'd walk in the room, I had my full shit on, my uniform. I wore my guns to the audition. Like, I probably can't even do that anymore. I don't know. But like, I would walk in full on cop shit, and all the other actors sitting in the waiting room would be like, oh, fuck. Like, this guy's going to get the job. What did he even call me in here for?
Yeah, that's great. Have you acted in anything since you've been on in Hawaii?
No, it's been a long time. Yeah, once I got hurt, I kind of stopped doing it, and I did a little bit here and there, but yeah, now that I'm in Hawaii, there's no market. Like Chicago's a good market. There's a lot of auditions, and had a lot of great people in Chicago helping me. Chris Stolte got me into it. He plays Mouch on Chicago Fire. And, Claire Simon is the big casting director in Chicago. She basically gives out all the work, and she liked me, and I was very fortunate to get what I got coming out of Chicago. So, yeah.
Well, the stuff you've done, I mean, you're great at it. I mean, you really were. I mean, it's like you should try to do like Hawaii 5-0 or something.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but jumping back a little bit to the police thing. So you mentioned, getting hurt. Is that why you retired? That last injury that you had?
Yeah, so I got shot, and when you get hurt, then you have like a year to come back to work. And my left arm, my hand doesn't work. My wrist, I had dropped wrist. I couldn't control any of it, and I had severe pain, nerve pain. So you have 1 year to come back to work. And I was trying and trying. I wanted to come back so bad because I had this like life plan. I wanted to make it to 50 years old. I was 44. And I wanted to make it to 50 and then retire and then ride off into the sunset to Maui. And I did that whole year, rehab and all the work that you could do. My nerve wouldn't come back. They said that it grows an inch a month and that it should get back to my hand and that I would recover in time for the year. It was like a race against the clock, and it never made it. It never got that far, and I still, my hand's fucked up. And so, yeah, I couldn't come back to work. They would, not that I didn't want to, they wouldn't take me. So the rule is, as Chicago, as a policeman, if you can't operate your weapon safely, can't be the police. And that means you also can't be a secretary or can't be a this or can't be a that, because officially you're a policeman. You have to be able to work your weapon. And I could probably shoot one-handed, but I can't reload. I can't rack my slide. I can't reload the pistol. So that I'm out. But yeah. And hey, everything happens for the best. It's up to you to make the best of it. You know, like when the shittiest thing happens to you, it's your job, dude. Make that a good thing. And I did. I said, well, my plan was to move to Maui when I hit 50. Well, now I'm 45 and I don't have a job. So fuck it, let's go now. So I sold everything in Chicago, and my wife and I came here with 2 suitcases. And now we got a whole life out here, and we're happy. And yeah, I get to hang with my wife, my best friend every day, and it's super cool.
You guys have a
Got
great
a little business.
relationship from what I've seen online. It looks great.
Dude, she's the best person I've ever met. Like the nicest, sweetest. She's incredible. I'm so lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love the story you told about how you guys first met.
Yeah. So I'm at the Hawks game with Andre Arlovsky. We're real close buddies, and we're at the fights. So in between the periods, it's like social hour out in the concourse, and we see Jess, my wife, and her friend Pocket, this little girl. She's small, so they call her Pocket because she's so small you could fit in your pocket. So I pick up Jess from behind, don't know her, pick her up, turn her upside down, and stuff her in the garbage can. And then me and Andre grab the little girl, the friend, and start swinging her around like maniacs, like knocking into people, but nobody's going to say shit because Andre's there.
Yeah.
We're swinging her around. And here's Jess, gets out of the can. You guys want some beers? Buys us beers, and we hang out the rest of the night, chugging beer, drinking. We met her at a bar later. She's the fucking coolest person ever, dude. So
Nice.
I don't know if you know this about her. You know she was on Rock of Love?
I appreciate, you reaching out to Jason when I talked to him about the security stuff, and he was great.
Yeah. I known Jason since we were like little kids, right? And then we got so we're like brothers. And then to actually be his partner and be friends and like go to work every day and be able to trust somebody like a brother at work in a life and death thing. Like, yeah, he's a great dude. Good
Has he been
family,
out
great.
to Maui yet to visit you?
No, he's one of the so there's a couple people that haven't made it out here yet. And I understand, like he's got a business, he's a policeman, he's got Gregory Boxing, a boxing gym. They have 2 locations now. And he's dude, that guy hustles. He works hard. He's got 2 kids, wife, house, 2 full-time jobs. Fuck, the guy hustles, man. Good for him. Great dude.
He was so complimentary. He's like, if you ever need anything from me, you let me know. I appreciate you. He said, I've had so much fun talking about this stuff. He's like, for years, he's like, I've just had all these stories and hadn't got a chance to tell them. He's like, I'm really happy to be doing this.
Yeah. It's been so long. Like, man, to talk to you about this shit is fun because it's like this stuff hasn't crossed my mind in so long, and rarely ever get recognized anymore. Every once in a while you get it, and it's kind of cool now. Used to be like, here we go. They they ever tell you the story when the guy in the parking lot at Mariano's recognized me and Jess?
You did tell me, but I want to hear it again for this.
So me and Jess, there was like this high end, like a nice grocery store called Mariano's in Chicago, close to my house, just opened up in Bucktown. And we're in the parking lot, and there's like this dude, black dude, collecting carts in the parking lot, right? I'm like, hey, how are you, buddy? Who are you? I'm like, nobody. He's like, you look like you somebody. I said, nope. He goes, you on TV? You in the movies? So I knew he recognized me from Springer, but I'm like, yeah, I was in a movie. What movie were you in? So I was in Transformers. You in Transformers? Oh, man, blah, blah, blah. So, okay. So talk to him, say hi to him. He's cool. We go in the store. Now Jess goes back to Mariano's like a week later. She's by herself. She sees him in the parking lot. She walks up to her. He goes, yo, you the hoe with the dude from Transformers? She's like, yeah, I guess I am that hoe. Where he at? He at home right now. So we never saw him again. I think he got probably fired or let go for talking unpolitically to the guests in the parking lot. Are you the hoe? What up, hoe?
Oh, Jesus.
Funny shit.
These people are when you were a police officer, did you ever play like was there any like camaraderie or practical jokes or anything like inside jokes between you and your partners or other officers that you guys would
Dude,
do?
that's the whole job. That's all you do all night is fuck around and joke like that. You got to make the job fun. You got to be. Me and Jason used to drive around and shoot people in the face with silly string. He'd be in the police car, and we'd see people on the street, excuse me, and bring them over to the car, and they'd put their face in the window and fucking spray them with silly string and drive away. He had this one guy, he was like, we always seen him out there, and he's kind of like a goofy fucker, you know, like he was okay. But we had heard that he got robbed. So he went to a cash station and he got robbed. So we see him like a week later. I'm like, hey, there's that dude. So we come pulling up to him. We're like, hey, man, I heard you got robbed. And he starts telling this whole sob story. Like, it's the worst thing that ever happened to him. And he's all sad. And he's like, oh, you got robbed? You're at the cash station? He's like, yeah. You mean like that one right there? And he turned around to look at the cash station. And I got the can right in his face. And when he turned around, like, fucking sprayed him with the silly string. And you could just see, like, his heart drop. He was so happy that we were concerned that he had got robbed. And then he realized in that instant, like, oh, these fuckers just wanted to spray me with silly string. Drove away and left him sitting there with silly string. Like, fucking police sprayed me with silly string.
And you can't tell anybody because then they're just going to laugh at you. You know, no one's going to have sympathy for you. You know, it's like,
dude, it's so funny. Like, you think the police are talking to you. We only did it to people we knew. I should say that. Like, we weren't just spraying strange public people with silly string. It was like we knew everybody because we worked in the entertainment center down there, so we knew everybody, and we just talked to them. And then when they wouldn't look, we'd spray them with the string and drive away. It was funny. So yeah, that's the whole job, is making each other laugh, fucking around, joking with people. You just got to entertain and if you're by yourself, you got to entertain yourself. Yeah.
Well, I saw the picture you posted. You guys had fake mustaches on or something like that.
Yeah. Like somebody challenged me that I couldn't ride around the whole night with a fake mustache on. So then I remember, I forgot what happened. We got into something with somebody, and I'm yelling at the guy, and half the mustache is like flopping off as I'm yelling to him. And Jason tells me later, he's like, dude, I almost lost it. You're screaming at the guy, and the mustache is flopping, and the guy's looking at the mustache like, what the fuck is going on?
Oh, that's fucking great, man. So how do would you say policing now is different than when you were on the job?
Oh, fuck. So I haven't been in the police for almost 10 years now. And I know as much as you do. I know from what I see on TV, I know they're wearing cameras now. I know that everybody has a camera in their hand. I can't imagine it's anything like it was when I was on. Because from when I started to when I ended, the job changed so much in those 20 years. These last 10 years, it had to have changed even more. So it's got to be a completely different job. Yeah. And then all my guys, when I talk to people who are still on the job, number one, all they're talking about is what day they can retire. None of them can wait to get out of there, to get the fuck out of here, move out of this shitty city and go somewhere else. And they all hate it. Everybody hates it. Yeah. Now, the new cops probably don't know better, so it's a good job for them. You can get out there and you can help people, and it's a noble profession. But if you knew what it was like in the old days, doing it now would really suck.
So you wouldn't encourage anyone to do that now? Like if they were a young kid wanting to do that?
Why go out there and help people? Be the police. It's a good job. They make like $100,000 a year now. Great benefits, great retirement. You can go out and help people for a living. Like, if you don't know how good it was before, you're going to think these are the good times, you know, like, go do it. Yeah, be the police. I would never discourage anybody from taking that job.
Well, you know, I've actually had a few people say that to me, like that were police officers. They said, yeah, I wouldn't do it if I were you. Very discouraging of it. Because I have toyed with the idea a few times, and then it's like, oh, are you too old? Are you a liability to your department because you're too old or something? I don't know. Like, because you see these police officers all the time, overweight, you know, they can't keep up. And so it's like,
they're just there for a paycheck, man. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, those big fat dudes, when somebody needs some help, them guys jump out of the car and they do their job. I never saw anybody like not do their job when it's on the line, when somebody needs help, you do the best you can. We're all just normal people. You're not something special because you're a cop. You're a regular dude. You're a husband, a wife, a brother. You're just a regular dude. You might be fat, you might be lazy, you might be stupid, like most of us are. When time comes to it and it's time to do the job, I've never seen somebody not do their job. They might have done it bad, but they did. They tried to do something, and they're always trying to do the best. That's the way I saw it.
I just wish more people. I think a lot of it too is like the lack of appreciation for it now. I mean, I wonder if that has something to do with it. Why people are discouraged in doing it.
You'd be a great cop, dude. You should be a cop because you're like inquisitive. You care about people. I can tell you're a good-hearted guy. You'd be a great cop. You should be a cop.
I appreciate that.
We need cops like you.
Well, I really appreciate it. I was going to ask you another thing, and you might not, if you don't want to answer it, that's fine, but it's something I've always wanted to know. How much does a Springer security guard make doing that?
Oh, fuck, not much.
Really?
Yeah, less than the police. Yeah. So it was at the time it was about as much as I was making being the police. But I was only working like 2 days a week.
Right.
So 2 full paychecks at the same time, which was nice. I did that for 8 years. It was rough because I had to skip sleep 2 nights a week. So Sunday night I wouldn't get to sleep, and Tuesday night I wouldn't get to sleep because I would just go from job to job to job and have to stay awake. So I was putting in 90 hours of work a week for 8 years in a row. I did that. But hey, man, now I live in Maui thanks to that job and thanks to working my ass off and thanks to, sacrifice and struggle and, doing the right thing. And here I am. So I'm lucky.
Well, I'm glad to know that because, hard work does pay off.
Yeah.
And that's something that you can't find on the internet. That's something you try to Google that. How much does a guard? And you can't find it. So good.
Oh, you mean that you can't find how much they make?
No, it's like the most top secret thing.
Yep. It's not a lot. It's not a little. It's,
yeah.
It's just a side job.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Once
you
start
people
getting paid as talent, then you start making real money. Then you start making actor money.
How did you deal with the stress of the job? That's another question I had written down when you were a police officer.
How do you deal? You know what? It's like you would have all these crazy adventures and shootouts and getting shot and getting stabbed and all this stuff, right? And like you just don't deal with it. It doesn't affect you. You go through it all. You go to the round table. You talk to the lawyers. You talk to your boss. You partner. You get it all. And then at the end of the day, when you get home and you're like finally in your own house and you're going to sleep or you're taking a shower before you go to bed, like that's when it hits you. Like, oh fuck, that was a close one. Like, when people are shooting at you, you ain't got time to freak out or stress, or you just do your job. You do what you're supposed to do. You do what's right. Help who needs to be helped. Can't freak out. When it's over, you can't freak out. You got steps to do. You got things to take care of. You got people to notify. You got your story to tell. You got to do what you got to do, right? And then when you're home and you're alone and it's safe, it's over. That's when it sinks in. Like, oh fuck, that was a close one, man. Fucking, I almost bought it tonight. Like that's when it hits you.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's not stress, but that's like you just don't freak out. You just do what you got to do. Think about it later.
That's right. And you just deal with it like life.
Small things, big things, all of them. Do what you got to do. Think about it later.
Handle business, as they say.
There you go. Nice.
Well, I really appreciate you doing this. I think that's all I got.
Man, great catching up with you. I haven't seen you.
It's been great.
Yeah,
I'd like to do this more often. I really would. I know you're busy. You got a lot going on, but anytime you find the time, I'd love to. And we don't even have to be recording it. You just talk about life.
Cool.
Because I just wanted to tell you, I really value you as a friend and looked up to you a lot as a teenager and still do. You're a great guy, and I appreciate it.
Now you make me feel old.
But no, man, no. But seriously, I
That's
mean,
good.
you've inspired me in a lot of ways, and I really look up to you, and I really value our friendship.
Cool, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time to ask me some questions. It's cool.
Definitely.
Yeah,
And let's stay in touch about the belt when you get a chance. I'd love to
for sure.
get one of
Yeah, for
those.
sure. Cool.
And shoot me the link when DB's podcast comes out because I want to.
Yeah. I don't even know. So I was the first one that he did. So I know he wants to build up a few of them before he releases it. But as soon as he does, I'll let you know.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool.
Well, you
Man,
guys
thanks.
take care and hi to Jess, and you guys have a great rest of your day.
10-4. Talk to you later.
Sounds good. Thanks again.